Hey guys, in this video I'll be covering how to add melee weapons. Just as a side note, if I sound absolutely miserable and my voice doesn't sound so great, it's because I have a cold right now, so please bear with me. Anyway, the first thing we want to do is draw the sprite. So for the weapon I'm going to be defining here is, or the weapon I'm going to be using in this example is a skateboard. So here you see I have two sprites already drawn, P walk skateboard and P attack skateboard. The reason why the character is different is because they're actually from my mod. So I was too lazy to resprite them as jackets, so we're gonna use that. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to sprite weapons and add the skateboard, which I have right there. Well, first what we're doing here is, if you watched my other video, we just basically searched the incidences of another weapon, for example, the bat, and what we're going to do is we're going to want to go into each individual script that the bat appears and add the skateboard values. So here we're going to go to the main sprite weapons, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the skateboard image in right before the toy gun. So if you watch my other video, a link will be in the description, but I explain basically what happens with the image indices there, and since I don't feel like repeating myself over, then I'm not going to explain it. So the first place we're going to go into is the script get weapon. And we're going to add if image index equals 27, object player dot sprite index is equal to sprite p walk skateboard. And as I said before, here we have an index conflict with the throwing weapon. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to advance that by 1 and advance that by 1. This will prevent the image from shifting when the weapon is thrown. Now we want to go to script current weapon, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing here, except instead of assigning a specific value, we're going to be using a generalized argument, and we're going to be returning the actual weapon. So if we add sprite object player dot sprite index is equal to sprite p attack skateboard, then we're going to want it to return the value 27, which is the index of the skateboard, if you saw before. We're also going to want to do the exact same thing for the walking. And also, as you've seen, or I don't know if I did it in the video yet, but nevertheless, we're going to want to go to the throw indices, and we're going to want to add one to them. So there's one for walking, and there's one for throwing. Or, sorry, not for throwing, for attacking. Next script is script current weapon ext, which is just a generalized version of script current weapon, and we're going to want to do literally the exact same thing. So here I'm going to say if the argument 0 is equal to sprite p walk skateboard, return 27. And I'm going to want to do the same thing for the attacking. Alright, now that we're done with that, script 360 deals with 360 controls, which I'm not going to worry about, so we're going to skip that. Script animation end controls what happens when the player finishes attacking. So here we want to initiate if sprite index equals sprite p attack skateboard. And we want it to return it to the player sprite index to them walking with the skateboard. So sprite index equals sprite p walk skateboard. Now this variable left controls whether you want the skateboard to flip directions. So generally what happens is the image is mirrored. So if you want the player to kind of switch hands or make it look like he's attacking from both directions, like he attacks once and then swings forward and then swings backwards, then you want to set it to left. Otherwise, if you just wanted to utilize one direction for the attack, then you use left. And you just exclude that left line. So in script player shoot, this is where the main attacking animation occurs. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to copy paste, for example, the club code, and we're just going to change some values. So the first thing we change is the main sprite index to the player walking with a skateboard rather than the club. And here we're going to want to change the attack animation to the skateboard rather than the club. Now here I'm comparing various reloads. 22 is pretty moderate, so you're swinging. A skateboard's a pretty heavy object, so we want to have some bulk to it. Now the last part I deleted was global that used guns, and if you want to pause and go back, all it is just registering for an achievement, so you don't want that. Now in this script get kill, this is where we initiate the execution. So what I'm going to do here is kind of move out, and I want to create a new object which will specifically code the execution. Now the code for the actual execution I'll be borrowing from my mod Midnight Animal. So here you see I have two individual sprites. I have the sprite of a of an enemy dying, and I have a sprite of the player actually doing the execution. Both of them, as you can notice, are 20 frames, which means that the last image index is 19. So you want to keep that value in mind. And 19 is something that can change depending on how many sprites are in your thing. But generally, it's just the last sprite. So here we're going to want to define a new object. So object p kill skateboard. And we're going to want to set the sprite index to sprite p kill skateboard. And here I forgot to, sort the sprites by alphabetical order. So I have a difficult time actually finding it. So what I do is I just go back and sort by alphabetical order. Yeah. So like I was saying before, I'm going to be taking this code from my mod. So you'll see, I guess, some kind of cross-reference, and when my mod comes out, you'll be able to see what it actually looks like. I mean, you can see what it actually looks like here. So I guess this is kind of like a sneak peek into one weapon, if you're into that kind of thing, you know. Anyhow, here all we're doing is setting the sprite index for it, which is sprite p kill skateboard. So here we found it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to want to define 3 events. We're going to want to define a create event, a step event, and a draw event. So here I'm going to be switching to Midnight Animal and copying the code over. So I'm going to be commenting the create event in the video, so if you want to pause, and if you ever have any lingering doubts, you can just pause the video and look at what this says. So the first thing we have here is image speed. What image speed does, it basically sets the image speed of the thing to 0, because you don't want it to move by itself. You want to use image indices to make the animation run. Bled is basically a variable which controls it basically records whether or not the enemy has bled. It prevents the enemy from bleeding many times, which can cause a tremendous amount of lag, not to mention the fact that it just looks bad. Her index is basically the index, or the image index within the actual attacking animation and the death animation, actually, which determines the place at which the enemy gets a hit. So you'll see this in a little bit. It's basically when the skateboard goes into their face, to use a contextual example. This next value, target index, is generally often the final value of the index, or it's the final index, so in this case 19. But what target index is, it's pretty much the sprite you want to be showing when the dead body is displayed. So when the actual animation for the execution ends, target index is what you want it to appear as. These next 2 things are basically initiating a mask position, and you're going to want to include them in, but I'm just going to leave them as is because it's a bit complicated, but all it does is it adjusts the mask position to the player's head motions. So I'm not really going to bother with that. It's a little bit imprecise, as you can see later in the video, but it does its job. Ammo equals 0 basically means that it returns the ammo the player spawns with once the animation ends. And of course, since it's a skateboard, not a gun, we're not going to be wanting to have any ammo for it. So we set it to 0. Now we're going to add the step event, and this is where the main action occurs, I guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Midnight Animals, and I'm going to copy and paste it again. Or here, if you want to pause, you can pause and read that over and copy it down. So this may look like a lot, but I'll be explaining it step by step. So. Alright, so the first thing here we're checking if the image index is less than 19. 19 being, in a moment we'll see, the last index of both the death animation here and in a second I'll show you the actual player animation for when he stomps down on the skateboard. And what we're going to do is we're going to advance it by an increment of 0.25. This is a moderately fast speed, so the execution will be a little bit faster than in the Hotline Miami 2 when the henchman executes. But just for the purposes of this video, I want it to be a little bit faster, but you can change that to however fast you would like. Alright, so here, well, basically this if-else, I should probably explain this logic. The if-else is controlling whether or not if the dead body occurs. So if the image index is less than 19, that means the execution is still going on. So we want to continue advancing index. Otherwise, however, we want to create several things. The first thing we're going to be creating is the blood pool. So you have here instance create x plus length directional y, or sorry, length directional x, length directional y. That's just generates a blood pool. You can just copy and paste that. So here we're generating a dead body. You have my ID is equal to instance create object dead body, and you want to set the dead body to the actually you want to set it to the death sprite, and you want to set the image index to the last sprite. All right. Next thing is you want to create the actual player upon ending the thing. So this next my ID basically creates object player mouse at xy, at the xy coordinates of the animation. You want the sprite index to be the player walking with the skateboard, obviously, because he's just used a skateboard. These next two values basically check to see if the mask is on. You don't have to worry about that. Global.angle and reload, you don't really want to worry about those. It's a bit difficult to explain those out of context. My ID moves outside solid, basically just moves the execution outside of any kind of solid, so just copy and paste those 3 lines of code. And instance destroy basically destroys the actual the object of the execution, and that prevents it from endlessly cycling and having an execution and a player going at the same time. Now this draws a score, so myID, you want to create the instance of the score. And myID.text is basically just what's showing on screen. It has no actual value in terms of the points you're getting. So these next globals are where the point values are. So global.myScore is a score added to your total score. Factor is a variable which is defined elsewhere, which controls like whether or not you can see or stuff like that. So the global kill score for this is 600. So you're going to want to do a plus equals 600 for every instance of this that occurs. Boldness adds it to your boldness score. So basically, you get more points for, I guess, for being reckless. Combo time is 600. Now I've been having a bit of a struggle with combo time, but I think so far as I've come to realize, the lower it is, the higher the actual combo is. But don't trust me on that. Experiment with it yourself. Global.combo plus equals 1 basically just means that you're adding 1 kill to your combo, which is what you want to do. And these next global.kills, don't worry about that. Global.kills plus equals 1 basically adds 1 kill to your overall kills. DSListAdd is a data structure. It's a list data structure, which basically is it's defined elsewhere. And what it does is it stores the various bonuses. So if you have things like execution or like sharpshooter or exposure or something like that, and this is obviously an execution, so you're going to want to add an execution to the list. You want to keep this line of code in. It basically normalizes your combo time value to 12. I personally haven't experimented with that, so I have no idea what's going to happen if you do. Anyhow, if you saw there, I checked to see if image index equals 12. So what I'm going to do here is cycle through the various steps, or cycle through the various indexes, starting from 7 to show you how the sprite advances. So the player raises his foot, and then on 12 he stomps it down. So 12 is the index which we want the actual blood to come out and the sound to play. And we can corroborate that here with the actual death animation. So 12, as you can see. Alright. So if the image index equals 12 and here you have the occurrence of bled. So bled, as I said before, controls whether or not the enemy has bled before. So if bled is equal to 0, then the enemy has not bled. If bled is equal to 1, then the enemy has bled, and you want the blood to stop. Otherwise, what it'll do is for every time if the image index is under 12, what it's going to do is it's going to produce a massive amount. It's going to produce what I'm going to define below, this blood and these sounds for the next 7 iterations or the next 7 indices, which you really don't want. I've fallen victim to it myself. It's an incredibly game-breaking bug, and it actually crashed my computer, and I lost most of my project, so you don't want to do it. Again, here the hurt index and the target index come into play. So hurt index, as you can see more clearly from here, is 12, and 12 is the, as we defined before, 12 is the index of both the animation and the death animation, in which the player actually steps his foot down on the skateboard and stomps the enemy's head in. Target index is the death index, and it's 19 in this case, as it usually is in most cases, or not 19, but the last index of the actual sprite. Global.shake, as it sounds, controls screen shake. 13 is a bit high, so you can lower that if you would like. I just set it to 13 to demonstrate a point. Now I just in Midnight Animals there are a number of sounds for sound hit, so I just deleted those because we're obviously using Hotline Miami, not Midnight Animals. So it's gonna be playing 2 sounds, sound hit and sound punch. Sound punch is added to give it that visceral kind of kick to it, whereas sound hit would have just sounded too weak. Here's where we generate the blood. So it's gonna be creating a base of 4 blood squirts, along with a randomized number, which is from 0 to 6. So at max it can create 10, at minimum it can create 4. This basically creates kind of dynamic gore, and it prevents your executions from all looking identical. Now the first my ID basically creates the actual blood spurt, and if you look at the x plus length directional x and length directional y, these values are adjusted so that the blood spurt comes out of the enemy's head. You can mess around with those if you want it to go out of like their torso or something, if you want the player to be like sawing the enemy in half or something, I don't know. I'm not exactly there yet in the video, but this next line, mind.image angle, it controls the angle at which the blood squirts out. So the default angle is image angle, so that'll orient it to the angle at which the body's lying. Minus 120, and it'll add a random of 0 to 240. So that basically allows you to spray from the left to the right to the middle, which is more realistic than if it just sprayed out in one direction. So in the draw event, I move a little fast here, but I'll be able to explain all of this later. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to define the hurt index and target index again within the context of the draw event. And you want to say if the hurt index is less than the target index. So basically, if the index at which the enemy is hurt is less than that which is the final index, you want the hurt index to advance by any value. Here I set 0.25 to be consistent, but you can have it be much faster or much slower. Now 2 things. The way draw events work is that they draw in order of top to bottom. So anything on top will go at the very bottom of the layer, I guess, and anything at the bottom of the actual code will go on top. So the first thing we're doing is drawing the shadow. So sprite E-Die skateboard was the sprite of the actual skateboard death. Sorry, I had a fluke there with my program. But basically what I was saying is you first want to draw the shadow. So here you can see draw sprite ext, and the sprite of the the enemy dying. The actual index is the hurt index because we want it to move. We want it to shift it slightly over by 1, and we want the color of it to be C black, which fills it in entirely black, and 0.5 to give it kind of transparency. Now the rest of this you can probably read on screen. It's not too important. In general, you just copy and paste stuff like that because it's consistent for all code. And here you can see I adjusted the center of the actual image to allow it to kind of fall in with or allow it to basically compatible. So instead of like the skateboard having falling in the middle of his chest, it falls in his head. So now we're going to return the script getKill, and what we're going to do is we're going to follow the format of the other ones above, and we're going to say if argument 0 is either the walking animation or the attacking animation, what we want to do is we want to return the object we just created, which is object pKillSkateboard. And you can see here this global.useWeapon, but we don't want to use that because we don't really care about creating new achievements or anything. So now we want to go to script kill shield. This is for our purposes, this is not really useful, so we're gonna ignore it. Like I'm just what this does is basically allow if you have multiple enemy types, for example, if you have gangsters or not gangsters, but if you have the Russian mafia and you have the gang members, then here's where you would define different base values for those. So here if you get if argument 0 equals sprite P, walk, skateboard, return true, and this is walking, by the way. And all this is check to see if the player is actually walking, which makes sense. This script next to weapon controls Willem's grabbing move, and since none of the enemies so far wield skateboards, we're going to ignore it. All of these are rather irrelevant, so we're going to ignore those. Last place we want to go, as I mentioned in the last video, is script player pickup. We're going to want to look for if last weapon. This is often tricky and often missed. So what you want to do is you want to go to that number 27 and you want to increment it by 1. If you haven't watched my previous video, number is 27 because I also added a pistol to the game. So in your case, if you're just starting out, you would change it to 27 instead of 28. And actually this applies for all the other image indices in the game. So now I'm just struggling to look for the actual train station level. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to spawn a weapon in, which I already have in my last video. So we want to set the image index equals to the index of the weapon we want, so 27 within sprite weapons. And this first part, when I run it, you'll see that I actually make a mistake. Again, the reason why I'm getting those errors is because I don't have the requisite music files. So if you do, you probably won't be getting those. So here we'll just select Richard, and we'll pick up the skateboard. So as you can see, the attacking animations work. The execution does indeed work. You can walk around with it, you can throw it, it doesn't change. But the thing is, you can't attack. The reason why I missed this is because instead of searching sprite P attack bat, I searched sprite P walk bat, so I missed out on all the attacking functions. So here I realize I fucked up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the program and we're going to search instead sprite P attack bat. So I filled out a number of those scripts already. And originally I thought it was because I didn't fill out the shoot one, but in actuality what you want to do is you want to go to object player mouse. So I'll be going here in a second. I think there's 2 scripts that I missed: object player mouse and script is walking. Is swinging. Sorry. So as you can see here, you can get the line numbers. The line numbers may be different in yours, but in general, I explain the locations where they are. So the first place we're going is script is swinging. This basically checks to see if the main weapon is actually being swung, which is pretty intuitive from the title. So all we're going to do is if argument 0 equals to the attack, then we're going to want to return true. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to go to object knocked out. And what this does is you want to go all the way to the bottom and you want to find if this really long sequence, right under if instance exists object player. And we're going to want to add or object player dot sprite index equals sprite P attack skateboard or whatever weapon it is you want to add. And what that does is it allows us to, when enemies are leaned up against the wall and knocked out, it basically allows us to swing once and kill them like that without having to go through the execution. Now here we're in the step event of object player mouse, and we're going to want to scroll down to right below script player mouse keyboard to this long thing. Now there are several iterations of these. You want to go to each one. You want to add or sprite index equals sprite P attack skateboard or whatever weapon it is. And basically, all this does is it reads whether or not your player's actually attacking, and it reads the interaction between the between enemies, for example, and actual player interactions like attacking. So here we have the dog patrol, and by adding it to this, we'll be allowing the player to kill dogs with the skateboard, which is what we want. And finally, I have the wherewithal to actually just realize that I can just copy and paste this. So the next thing you want to do is put it in the else statement, and all the else statement does is it checks to see if the enemy is a dog, and if it's not a dog, then that means it's a regular enemy. So that's going to change it to what's it called? So you're basically coding first the dog patrol attack, and then second the actual enemy attack. Now the last place I'm going to go is object SWAT, and this basically lets you take the skateboard and knock down SWAT people with it, or the SWAT units in it, and Crackdown. It's pretty unnecessary because I don't actually plan on putting the skateboard in SWAT in the SWAT level at all. But I do it just to show you what you would do in case you want to add something like a, I don't know, like a chainsaw or something, and have it hit the SWAT members. So here we've loaded into our game, and it should work now. So again, we choose Richard, and now everything should work. So once again, the execution works just to prove. And now when they come, we can attack them and hit them. So it does indeed work. Throwing it at them works, and it knocks them out. Obviously, my sprite work was a little lazy here, but if you're more dedicated to your craft, then I would obviously those wouldn't be changing to gang members during the execution. Now here's just a long string of me being absolutely horrible at the game. So if you want to skip this, you can. I'm just gonna, I guess, let it play or whatever, talk or whatever. I don't know. So the next video I plan on making is adding weapons to enemy types. Now, this will basically allow your custom weapons to be picked up by enemies, and it's pretty similar to the last two videos. Actually, it's the process is generally similar. So you can look forward to that, I guess. And I didn't expect to be so sick, or I actually didn't expect to be sick at all. And this has definitely caused a setback. But if assuming this doesn't worsen, and assuming I get a little bit better in a couple of days, you should probably expect the video around midweek. Yeah. So here I just rage quit, and I guess that's it. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it was informative. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, or leave them on Reddit where I post this video. And have a nice night. Thank you.